September 22nd, about 9:30 a.m. We have a workshop, Liberty County Commissioners Court. We've got Commissioner Arthur, Commissioner Clark here. And this is a workshop to discuss potential TIRZ, tax increment reinvestment zone, in Precinct 4 between Liberty County and Connor Investment Real Estate for a fire station improvements. So thank you all for being here. Let's see what we can come up with on this one. It's a worthy cause. Just let's see if we can make it work. Okay. Y'all want to get started? Who wants to speak first? Yeah. Don't be shy. Come on, you just get the mic there, Paul. Yeah. Yeah, you
give you a background regarding the TIRZ. Is an opportunity for the county to create a fund in order to do some improvements and using a firehouse is something that is really needed once we start building out the development. So the Masterson here has some information regarding the dollar amounts. We don't have a budget on the firehouse at all, so this is just conceptual. And once we agree on the concept, then we can dive into the numbers and fine tune the numbers as we go for a period of time.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. So, good morning. Happy to be here again. Greg Lentz with Masterson Advisors.
Yeah, please state your names.
Sorry, Greg Lentz, Lentz, Masterson Advisors. So, did you all get this handout by chance? Did this get circulated to you? There was a letter about the fire station, and this is just a summary of some of the TIRZ numbers that I'd like to walk through and hand out to you all. So, this is something that's easier to reference than just spouting out numbers. Sorry, I should have handed this on beforehand. Thanks. Okay, so a little bit about the proposed TIRZ structure. If you all would agree to the creation of a TIRZ, what happens is you establish the base year, which is the starting taxable value. Of course, right now it's just raw land value, but the revenue that's generated is from the incremental increase in the taxable value over time. And so that base year sets your starting point for that incremental value. The proposed termination of the TIRZ would be 30 years from when build out is achieved, which is approximately estimated in 2037. Reason for that timing is because it allows you to, when you get to full build out, then you have time to amortize your bonds for an additional 25 to 30 years. So it gives you just that extra flexibility to be able to issue bonds, and those will be issued through the district, so through the MUD district. We're opening the discussion for the TIRZ. So right now we're showing a 68% county tax rate participation, right? So what that means is when the TIRZ revenue is collected by the county retains 32%, 68% would flow to the district. Initially used for the fire station. We're going to see in a second that there's going to be additional funds that are available for projects that could be used, working with your developer to, see what makes sense. We don't have a list of those projects. The engineers and Paul are putting their pen to paper to come up with a list. There's also a administration fee out of the district's participation that would be held back by the county. It does take some administration on the county's part to collect that revenue to send it over to the district. So we were proposing starting at $10,000 per year from the gate and escalating 2% over the life of the TERS. It equates to about $616,000 in revenue for the county over the additional life. So that comes out of the district's participation and would be held back by the county for the administration. Any questions so far? Just working through this chart. So the TERS revenue over the life, based upon 1.3 billion in taxable value achieved at build out, is about 159.991 million. So that's the total revenue received based upon the incremental increase in value, the 1.3 million over that the initial starting base value. 32% is retained by the county, so that's the 51.6. I've added to that the 616,000 admin from the district's portion, and then we have roughly about 108 that flows to the MUD. That's less than 616. So from that 108, that would be used by the district to either fund projects with cash on hand or to issue bonds, probably a combination of both. I'm showing that the initial proceeds from bonds out of that are about 35 of the 58.49 million. And then there's additional funds that get generated of about 23.28 million. And then you can see the 8 million, that's the estimate that Paul mentioned for the fire station, nets out of those total proceeds. So those are the bonds and the surplus of 58 million. And then there's about 50 million for additional projects. So there's no list for those yet. It's just showing you the potential source of revenue. So this is just starting, restarting the discussion for the TERS, and happy to answer any questions that y'all might have on the mechanics, the financing. Like I said, this is just starting point for discussion, participation levels, and things like that. We can adjust depending on what y'all see as best for the county.
Matthew, we're doing a 60-40 with the TERS in Grand Oaks, correct?
That sounds right.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. I guess the main question would be, what all can you use the funding for besides the fire station? That's
Initially, we had a discussion regarding the additional funding could be used for the road improvement at 614.
Okay.
Because that's going to be necessary over a period of time because of all the traffic. So we could set aside some funds in order to make that improvement.
y'all have a guesstimate on that 614 road improvement project, what it would be?
Well, we were earlier talking about it, just connecting 661 and 614. It's just 25 million. I have no idea how good that number is.
Yeah, but that was a starting point.
Yeah.
I believe it was well designed based on your requirements of the type of road that's going to be needed for the amount of traffic that was going to be generated.
Mm-hmm.
So once we roll in and identify the exact projects, what we can do is update the numbers to reflect the right termination of the bonds and the exact rate, whether there's a participation of 60% or 55%, depending on the total amount of debt that's going to be required in order to fund those particular projects. But top of my head, those will be the firehouse and the road improvement for 614 will be the most important ones for the district.
Okay. Andy, can they use any of that funding to outfit a fire station?
I would say so. I've got several questions on my head looking at this.
Go ahead.
The 8 million seems a little low for a fire station. Obviously, that does not include any fire trucks. that's a big concern is who's going to pay for the trucks to, a nice pretty fire station is of no use with nothing in it.
I think the funds could be allocated to outfit the entire firehouse, right?
Okay.
So we just need to work with you, identify what is the right size of the building to construct, number one. Number two, the equipment that's going to be necessary. Then in addition to that, I believe there's possibility of training and development of firemen if needed.
This is this is one off 1960, correct?
Yeah.
Because that's in Dayton Volunteer Fire Department's area.
Yep.
I think they need to be at the table, or at least part of the conversation, because they're going to ultimately be responsible for manning that station and responding to calls.
Well, yeah, unless you cut up the districts more.
Right.
Yeah.
And create a whole new fire department down there just for this, 1,100 acres. But I still think the $8 million is a little low for land, the building, and equipment.
Yeah.
And then I realized that as the houses get built and they get occupied, that there was going to be the 1 or 2% that live there that will want to volunteer. So that's just what pops up in my head just off the top looking at this morning.
Yeah. I think there'll be a point in time when we decide to create the district to really invest money and try to identify what's the right amount of investment we need for our house to outfit it the correct way.
So are you wanting to create a new fire district, or are you wanting to work with the existing one since it's already in their territory?
I think that would be your decision. Yeah.
Okay.
The concern I would have there, Andy, is most fire departments, that we have in the county are volunteer.
Correct.
And I'm thinking the more population that we have move in, then that necessity would be for paid members. And, that's probably 25 years from now. Probably that every fire station in Liberty County would be a paid position.
That would be nice to have the guaranteed response.
Well, yeah, but this is part of the growing pains we have to make it all work. So whatever decisions you make now would reflect 30 years from now, plus.
Because you can lay the foundation right now that'll be a voluntary that eventually converted over to permanent positions at a later date. And it's my understanding over the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be about 2 or 3 other developments in 1960. So that's going to be a corridor with more houses.
Yeah, you're not going to be by yourself out there.
Yeah.
Believe me, yeah.
So this kind of sets it up in the right location to be able to service everything down 1960 all the way down to today.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a developer, we're trying to allocate, 1.5 acres for the firehouse. Right? That will be our contribution.
Okay. All right. So we got a developer, 30,000 foot view, engineering, 30,000 foot view,
Financial advisor.
financial advisor. Okay. But we got legal.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to give me maybe a 20,000 foot view?
Yeah, Katie Sherborne with Allen Boone Humphreys Robinson. And so, Paul talking about what would happen. So the district would fund the fire station, fire equipment. Of course, then you guys figure out who's going to own it. I'm not in the business of owning and operating a fire station, nor do you want me to be. Leave that with the people who know how to do what that business. And so we would fund it. We would sell bonds to fund that, pay off that debt, and then use the TERS increment to fund that debt service for that. Paul had mentioned training. I'm issuing tax exempt bonds, so I can fund training, but it's under federal rules. It's going to be limited to 5% of my bond issue.
Mhm.
But if we're talking 20 million in bonds, that
That ought to cover it.
5% should cover it. And I would imagine with as expensive as fire equipment is, we may be talking 20 million. I mean, it may be higher than that to adequately outfit that station. And so basically, we'd set that TERS up. We'd decide base year, likely this year, then what you guys are willing to contribute, and you can have your financial experts run those numbers and see what it is. We talked about the roads. That's not something, though, that you have to commit to today. This can be fluid. And, you know, if the fire station is your highest priority right now, then we can get that documented. And then the rest of it is just fluid to figure out what's important and what are priorities. You know, do you guys already have a TERS? Okay, so you've gone through that, and as you know, we've provided for administrative costs. You guys want to look at that administrative cost, make sure that that's adequate, because we don't want you to come back in 5 years and be mad at us. So make sure that that's adequate to cover your administrative costs. That's what we took from some other jurisdictions that they felt was a good amount of money to fund that. But of course, discuss that internally to make sure that that works for y'all.
Kind of give me an idea. If you started turning dirt today, Paul, how far off are we looking before the first people move in? First house gets built.
I would imagine within 24 months, because we still have to do all the civil engineering.
Okay.
Once we do all the civil engineering, then another 8 months to start turning dirt. And then once we turn dirt, then we should be able to be in a position to start building homes.
So you start turning dirt today, 24 months from now, you start building the first home.
Yes.
And probably a 3 to 4 month period, 5 month period for each home to be completed,
Yes.
roughly.
Roughly.
Okay. So maybe 36 months would have somebody living there. Maybe quicker. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You prefer quicker. I'm not.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what specifically is different between this run at a TERS than the last one? I know we were focused more on the roads, but it was also financing your road construction into the subdivision, as I recall. So what's different? What's the difference here?
I think we stopped the conversation on the other TERS only because we wanted to make sure we got the development agreement in place. There's no difference here. The only difference is now we just only focus on one thing at a time. Try to make this entire TERS kind of float over a period of time and identify what's the priority of the county versus me as a developer saying, this is the priority. I shouldn't be in that position to dictate what the priority is.
Yeah, and the last one was that 32 cents would go to the MUD instead of a percentage. I didn't go back and relook at all this, but it just seems I'm not quite sure what's your advantage to having this TERS agreement, because I'm trying to pull all this.
To tell you the truth, there's no advantage to me in regarding the TERS because there's nothing that's going to be provided to the developer at all. The developer is just providing you the opportunity to create a TERS in order to isolate some funds in order to do some projects.
Well, and from the district point of view, obviously, we want to have adequate fire protection in the district. Everybody does,
Yeah,
right?
Understood.
And so and under state law, we can enter, as you guys know, enter into a fire protection agreement with you guys so that we can fund this. Absent that fire protection agreement, which has to go to an election and be approved, but I'm not foreseeing any issues with that. But absent that fire protection agreement, the district has no power to actually fund these improvements. And so as much as we want to, we can't do it without the fire protection agreement. So so that's the advantage to us, is that, again, we get adequate fire protection service in the district for the residents.
Mhm.
ISO ratings, all that stuff.
That's a pretty important
It
aspect.
is. It's very important. And so that's why it's a priority to the district.
Matthew, yeah, you think you,
This is, I mean, it sounds to me like what they're saying is, hey, this is one way of solving this problem. And so they're offering this to us for our consideration.
well, there's several things that are nice about TERS. One is only the people that live in the district pay. Okay. But this could actually help people that live outside the district and they don't even have to pay for it. Correct?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Then there is a shelf life also, which would give a lot of people a little bit more good feeling about being taxed for something. And because it is a tax, whether you like it or not, that's another way to say it. But at least it would say, but it's only until for 30 years or what, 38 years or
39.
39 years. Yeah. And thing about TERS of mud, you can just keep on rolling with it. It's like a free throw at a basketball game. How many can I make? You know, but with the TERS, it's like it's set. You can't come back and go, by the way, I made a mistake. I need to go ahead and up this a little bit longer. So that's the other nice part about it too. As far as the revenue generation, if this were to go forward, how long would it take? This is one of those loaded questions almost, but how long would it take to have enough revenue built up in such an account to where you could actually do a fire station?
Yes. So we were projecting a first bond issue in. Hold on here. I thought I remembered that offhand, but so projecting a first bond issue of 9.8 million. That was assuming the 8 million was adequate. But let's just assume that for now would be in 2032.
Okay.
So Paul's projecting to start building value starting in January 1 of 2028. So we need a little bit of momentum to get the value to build enough increment to produce the revenue for that size of bond issue.
Okay. Otherwise, we'll be passing out a whole lot of water hoses for people to put the fire out. Right. Okay. It's an interesting solution. I'm like Andy on the subject. I think it's a little bit low in what the cost of one, building a station, and then two, outfitting a station, and then three, would it be a pay position station, which makes sense nowadays. Because I don't know what the cost of a pumper truck in 2032 is going to be. You know,
Well, based on current trends, it could be $2 million because
Yeah.
it's gone from 300 trucks that were $300,000 5-6 years ago. We're now going for 800,000-900,000. That's a big issue in Washington right now. They're talking about is what happened. Ladder trucks used to be 800,000. Now they're 1.6. Everything has doubled or tripled for a fire truck. And that doesn't necessarily include the gear that goes on there for another $250,000-300,000 in some cases, depending on if it's a rescue pumper, ladder, and the area that it's serving, what other special equipment they may need.
You know, it all boils down to justification of need and a solution for the need. And then nobody wants to come up and, 10 years from now, I'm hoping I'm going to be fishing and punching cows. Okay. And, but I wouldn't want somebody to come up and say, by the way, y'all really messed this up. You should have made it more. Yeah, but then again, if the more you make it now, the more people look at it and say, boy, that's going to take a lot of digging into to see why. But these are things that have been used in Harris County for years and years and years. And unfortunately, we're the first go around out this way, probably 7 years ago or so. we saw our first TERS. So it's been a learning experience for all of us, which probably going to be somewhat of a little bit of a learning experience for you too, but success and the development itself would be worthwhile for us to look at it,
So I'm curious, how did you come up with the $58 million as the total funds?
Good question.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So over the life of the whole deal, there's 108 million of. So let me back up. 159 million total revenue, right?
Yep.
From the increment. You split that 68% to the district, 32% to the TERS with the admin, and then you take that 108 million when you bond finance against that revenue stream, plus the surplus funds that are generated. It takes 58 million. It'll net out 58 million of proceeds that are available.
Okay.
35 of that is for bonds, and then the remaining 23 is just additional funds that are available. So the difference between the 108 and the 58 are your financing costs, your interest, and your cost of issuance. So that's kind of how we arrive at those two amounts. So the key is 108 million. That's the revenue stream. When you bond against it, you net out 35 in net proceeds, and then there's 23 of just additional surplus due to coverage and just being conservative on collections, things like that. It generates just additional funds.
Okay.
Based the total amount of the investment for the firehouse and the equipment, you get your observed one in your 27, where the monthly cash flow into the district is quite high, and maybe there's alternatives versus bonding, whatever it may be. You should be able to self-finance source the. Those are other little options. So you're looking at a little bit more receiving or working with 108 versus 58, right? Depending how you want to proceed. So if we proceed with bonds, as we were discussing, and back to your question, the $8 million is not enough, but there's still a remaining $50 million left, so we can probably bump it up quite a bit and still cover all the requirements for a firehouse.
For example, if you waited 2032 was our first bond issue, that 8 million. If you delayed that and went to the following year, you'd be able to size a bond issue of about 14.4 million. So that could get you closer to the turnkey fire station with the equipment, some training maybe.
The more you
drill down on the cost.
The more you push it out, the more you're putting on the volunteers that are in place right now to cover that for at least 5 years after you start moving people in and adding to their responsibilities, changing it from a cow pasture to a subdivision and adding houses and people. And now ambulance services is another separate from the fire service, fire protection, that is going, there's 5 years with no income coming in for the services being provided to help cover the cost of doing business. So, that's one thing that jumps out at me just off, in the front. 5 years of no fire station, but we could have, y'all have a total of 3,300 homes, 3,400 homes projected?
32.
And over 10 years, so we could have 1,700 homes that are being protected by the guys in Dayton right now. And the ambulance service that we have, the county's going to have to find the money to cover the cost of increasing protection until y'all do the first bond 5, 6, 7 years into the project.
And not knowing exactly what that entails, because I don't know. All I know is I see a pretty fire station and I'm glad it's there. But one thing that we have in the development agreement too, though, is that we are going to put on each resident commercial owners in the district to pay a monthly fee that's going to be tacked onto their water bill and then transferred to pay for fire protection services. And I don't know what that cost is to you guys. What we have in there is that we'll put a $10 per month fee on each, and it'll be decided a little bit differently for businesses, because that was one of somebody's request was.
Well,
perhaps
something,
they-
yeah, I remember that conversation. Yes. But
so-
still, the sooner we get a fire station out there, as y'all are growing and you have a big explosion of houses and businesses, without having another fire station and equipment and people closer, that's going to affect the residents, and their ISO ratings for the fire department is going to get hurt. And that's not going to hurt just them, but it's going to hurt everybody else in Dayton's district by increasing their ISO rating. And it's going to raise everybody's property taxes in the entire Dayton Fire Department district. And it's a rather large area. So it doesn't just affect your project, it affects the entire fire district, which goes all the way to the county line. And it's already hard enough for some folks trying to buy property out here. I get phone calls all the time from insurance agents wanting to verify the closest height at the closest station, and they're a little surprised, at the distance.
So there's a sweet spot that we're looking for in between having enough growth that it could be bonded and financed, and then also not too late, such that it's created such an impact on.
Well, it's overwhelming to the volunteers.
Yeah.
So that
So obviously we have to work with the right timing to impact the right community at the right time, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of coordination and planning. Obviously, once we create the district, if we choose to create the district, then we start working on doing the cost analysis and identify the right equipment, designing the building, et cetera, just move the ball forward. Right now, there's a lot of unanswered questions, right?
Yeah.
But, we have the go ahead. There's a commitment on our side to support the county to move the ball forward. And it takes that type of commitment and understanding that it needs to occur. So.
And I guess what we need to see too is, what do you guys project in terms of financial needs to be able to have everything, what do you need when, how much money is needed? We need all of these things factor into that final plan.
I could
So
use
that it
about
works
200
for
million
everybody.
right now if you got it. It's okay. Good talking points. So, I mean, really thinking outside the box, definitely. But Russell, you're back there. You got any questions? You have that Monday morning quarterback look on your face there.
So this is the subdivision across from Medina.
Yes.
Okay, right. And this is kind of curiosity. This is the only subdivision I know of that's looking at a fire station, right? So we're in danger, right?
to my knowledge,
I'd
yeah.
say so.
Medina was already in place before I.
Right, yeah. Exactly. So-
We have one up in Cleveland, closer to Splendora, that we have an agreement with, about the fire fighting capacity with them. But
That's it, though.
that's it. Yeah.
The other thing that I want to bring up, we're also working with the school district trying to allocate some property for a school, an elementary school. So
Mhm.
the firehouse in that area would be ideal to support it for
Sure.
elementary school.
So I'm looking at these numbers again. You go back to the 58, 59 million. If it is just the firehouse and the equipment, wouldn't these numbers be significantly less? Because the way I understand it is you're providing, there's another $50 million somewhere
Yeah.
to look at opportunity.
So our approach was two ways, right? What kind of revenue or bonding capacity could we have as a district if we choose to be at 68% participation? That was number one.
And that 68% is the 32 cents that was discussed before, right? Right. that equals the 68. That's where the 68%.
Okay.
We had it on tax rate, more conventional, do a participation percentage, so we can change that. So there's more familiar.
So at
Okay.
32 cents we're here, right, in terms of the funding. And now we just identify, that's our budget, the highest budget, right? Now we identify what projects we need. That if we identify we only need $15 million for the firehouse equipment, then we size the participation to match the budget. So right now, this is the sky high budget. And now we need to go find the details to support the applicant. That's it.
Yeah, this was just repeating the numbers that you guys saw before.
Mhm.
But again, just the starting point of this conversation, which needs to go further. The percentage was also, it's not only traditional to go with the percentage, but the question was raised, well, what if under Senate Bill 2, we have to lower our tax rate?
Right.
And then we're still paying you 32 cents. Well, the percentage takes care of that.
Right.
So that as your tax rate goes down, the percentage goes down. Well, the actual flat rate goes down. The percentage stays the same.
But as the tax rate goes up, and your percentage goes up as well.
You're not supposed to be raising your tax rate.
You haven't seen the
That's how the
agenda.
tax
You haven't
comes
seen the
away.
agenda for tomorrow's meeting.
Okay. Oh. Great. Yeah, I think. Oh, I don't think. I mean, it's a good start. I mean, it lays it all out there, and yeah, you got a wish list versus a reality list. You know, and we're not really sure which either one of us is going to be yet. But here's some numbers here to look at, and it all is way out there in the future.
You know, I knew you were working on getting your development agreement. You've got that. I mean, you guys were pushing hard, you know, to meet your timelines. You had milestones. You had milestones. We're right in the middle of a budget cycle season right now. So what's the timing of this thing? When do we need to have reached a conclusion to make this work? I mean, I don't know. And
Well, from the legal side, like I said, I can't do any of this without a fire protection agreement. That said, I can, you know, when are you gonna have your first houses? 2 years?
2 years.
2 years. So we've got time to get this done, but we're going to go up there and get created in all likelihood without tacking on that fire protection agreement, because I can't tack it on unless it's fine. But I can go up separately with a fire protection agreement to the TCEQ. And so, you know, I mean, when's your budget, tax, everything going to be done?
Well, it better be done October 1st.
And so we could,
Yeah.
once you guys get that done and come up for air, we can continue these discussions and, you know, ideally have something up to the TCQ, say, you know, the first part of 2026
Yes.
would work.
Okay.
So that we can go ahead and get that approved.
Sure.
In our side, or maybe collectively, the next step should be maybe perhaps setting up a budget of what a firehouse and equipment will cost. And maybe we can work with other districts or counties that have a little bit more current information just to kind of gauge ourselves, right? That's a possibility, but
Well, there's 2 new firehouses in Liberty County. There's one in Cleveland, Grand Oaks, that the city of Cleveland built, and then the city of Liberty just recently completed a brand new station on US 90, South 90. But we could probably get their numbers and then just add percentages for future use, or at least for consideration.
it's hard to escalate out though, like Nathan was talking about, 5 years or so,
Mhm.
right? 2031 would be the first. Wow. You're talking about crystal ball kind of.
We do that in the mud world though. and projecting, and we try to be conservative with those numbers. Conservative meaning on the high side, not the low side,
Yeah.
Right.
so that there's no surprises out there. But in the mud world, we encountered that at one point. The concrete wastewater treatment plants went up 40% during COVID. And it was ridiculous. But now they've come back down. And so there are, you know, like you said, Washington's looking at that. Why is this going up? And so it's very possible that they'll figure out a way to get that to come back down too. But if not, we'll look at the trend that's been happening and we'll project out based on that trend so
Okay.
that there are no surprises.
All right. Well, I think we can probably, everybody can get some homework done between now and January the 1st to 26th, somewhere in there, and then kind of come back and we'll stay in touch and then kind of review this once again. It's not out of the question, let's put it that way. But it is a novel approach, you know, that a lot of the folks in this county have never seen. And that's the part of it that you speak of transparency, and then we all highly regard that. But the side of it is education for the public is very much a necessity because a lot of folks here have never seen this before. And in other words, they think we're giving things away. But no, we're going to get something. Yeah, but yet, we're going to give something. We're going to get something. The other side of it is, this is once a cow pasture. Okay, where we weren't getting anything but cow pasture, ad valorem taxes off of it. So now it's going to have sizable value built into it over the time period, and that's the reality. Okay, Matthew, you got anything?
And we're not going to be around for the completion of the TERS. So we also have to look at the obligation,
Yeah.
you know, over this. Yeah, and it's a bit mind boggling when you sit here and think when you're 71 years old, what's going to happen to folks down the line. But I do know we need fire protection. I know we need some roads. I know, I know that. I know the need is out there. You just have to be able to justify it and say that this is in the overall best interest of the county and its taxpayers and the residents of your new subdivision. So,
well, one thing we find in the mud world is that mud residents love fire protection. It is just a no-brainer from a political standpoint and a financial standpoint for these residents. Because we need fire protection, we need EMS, we need all of that. And, I think I may have told y'all before, we have some districts where we just tack on a volunteer fire department fee. It's completely voluntary to pay it under state law. On my bills, I have to say this is voluntary. You do not have to pay this. They all pay it just the same because they want to support the fire department. So it's one of there's a lot of things you can step in this world, but fire is just one where I don't worry about it politically. People support it, and it's a great thing.
it's like buying fresh pet for your dog instead of the Old Roy at Walmart.
My husband buys the Old Roy.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we'll study this while y'all study it for a bit, and then we'll regroup. Let's say after the first year on this particular question and solution. I'm sure we'll all have it pretty well looked at, and probably some public comments. Believe me, we get them whether y'all know it or not. They just come in various ways. It's one of these works pretty good, believe me. And
So we need to also be looking at other projects.
Yep.
To
I would say so. The whole thing is the need, for better roads in the not just the district or even contiguous to the district anyway. Folks are looking for that, and the county is not in the road building business. We're barely in the road repair business. I'm sure I'll hear that tomorrow as well. But yet, the
Yes, you are.
but the other side of it is the need is going to get here way before the funding does, unfortunately. So if we think ahead, plan ahead, and then of course we're encumbering a generation ahead of us too. So we have to consider that as well. My grandkids will love me. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So for the rest of this year, though, would it be possible to work with somebody to try to get a realistic budget of what this is going to look like?
I would say with Andy on the fire. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm going to volunteer. Yeah, it's okay. See there? It's Monday. You're volunteering. And I would probably get me and Matthew and probably Ricky Brown would be looking at it pretty close too. What's the best route to go and when do you pull the trigger?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. And Gerald, we'll drag Gerald in too. Believe me. It's in his precinct. Yeah. And he'll be here.
I'll be there.
He will. All right, y'all got anything else? Greg? Okay. All right, well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out for an early Monday morning visit. Okay, and we are dismissed.